Guys, so we are going to start the install video. There are going to be, it's pretty easy to get this whole tub tray off. So right here we have this plastic cover. This is just going to lift right off with some clips on the back side. And if you just kind of pull up on it, it feels bad, but it will come off. There we go. So if you can see the backside, you just have all these plastic clips. That is off. We're going to set this to the side. So that's probably the super easiest part of this whole install. And I'm going to show you guys what we have to do next. So up here we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 bolts. I'm going to assume these are 10 millimeters, but I will put that in the video description. Now, before we do that, we need to remove this. So, in theory, you take this little pry tool, and these are very good because they won't scratch up your plastic. You just kind of work your way around. See, it comes right out. This little plug right here. Okay, so when you are unplugging this, you see this little dimple right here. Stick a flathead screwdriver in there because it kind of catches like right on that little ridge, and you just got to give it a little pull and it will pop out. So we have this off. I'm just gonna set that to the side. And just to confirm, these are 10 millimeter sockets. So you have 1, 2, 3. Those are 10s. 4s or 10s as well. So very nice. Those are the only 4 bolts you have to remove to take the whole thing out. We're off on the car, which if I'm not mistaken was under safety. So I would recommend doing that. You're not really messing with a whole lot of high voltage underneath here, but it doesn't hurt just to have that extra power off of whatever is charged up. I'm sure it probably doesn't make a huge difference, but doesn't hurt. So all of these bolts are also the same length on the front and the back, up here and down here. So you can just kind of put them in a pile and it will not matter. So all 4 are out. We are now going to try to remove the tub. So the tub, actually, you know what? I think we have to remove this air duct as well up here, the HVAC air duct. So these are just little pop tabs. I'm gonna pull them out like so. Again, plastic pry tool. If you don't have one of these, go get one. It will be your best friend. So we're gonna set that to the side. And now, it comes out. Okay. So, there's your tub. We are gonna set this over here. Try and get it out of the way. It is, there we go. All right. Okay, so our plastic tub is out of there. Let me show you guys what we're working with. So, orange stuff, high voltage, cooling packs, that's kind of cool. I think those are all your coolers and stuff like that. We don't really want to touch any of these orange wires. Stay away from them. That is where a lot of your juice is flowing from, if I'm not mistaken. So, we are going to start by changing the struts out. There is 1 strut on each side, so we're going to take this off and this off. And then we also have to change these brackets. So this is me by myself right now. So I'm going to try changing these out by myself and hopefully be able to do it. So we're going to try and do one side at a time. I think it should be fine because 1 strut should be enough to hold up this frunk. It's pretty light. I just took this car. If you're noticing how disgustingly dirty this car is right now. I just took this on a 3,000 mile road trip up to Canada and back. And I decided, I'm like, you know what, let me do this first because I'm going to get my handprints and all that over it. So I'm going to clean the car after I get this modifications done, but let's go on to the next. Okay, so to remove these struts, you basically have to pop these little tabs right here. And then you put basically a flathead in there or something really small, pop that one, and then the same for the bottom, as you can see right there. And the aftermarket struts do need a different bracket, so you have to take these brackets off. Okay, so let's try and get this thing off. So if everything Okay, there's one side. So basically you pry on this tab and pop off. So that first strut off, I chewed it up a little bit. So now I know what not to do for the next side. But not too bad. So I did get that off. Let me get the new ones set up. Now I do want to note, just so everyone is aware, the instructions on this setup, they do say to do the frunk first, and I was doing exactly as they say, so I'm just going to try that a little bit different, and then also it shows to replace the brackets. So we're going to move on to changing the brackets out. So this is going to be the right bracket for this side of the trunk area or frunk area, which is going to go right here. So we have to remove these two bolts, and then down here there's also another bracket that we need to replace on the bottom side that I'll show you guys, but first I am going to replace this. Now these are marked RT and LT, so right and left, so make sure you're using the correct orientation because they are cut a little bit differently for the left and the right because they're going to be flipped. You want this little nub area is going to be pointing towards the frunk, not away. So you want to make sure you get the correct orientation on these. I do want to note that these bolts or nuts are 13 millimeters. So be aware of that. They are not 10s. They're not 14s. They are 13s. So we have one screw off. I'm going to set that right there. And it's always fun to not drop the nut either. So I set them right in there so they can't move away. Here is your OEM one. We're going to set this to the side. And we are going to install our aftermarket one. We are going to use the same exact nuts. You do not change any of the hardware. So I'm going to grab my hardware. We're going to hand tighten these first before we put a wrench on them or a socket. That way we don't cross thread anything. I have learned over the years to not use impacts on bolts anymore. If it's a bolt I really care about, because I seem to cross thread bolts quite a bit, and I'm tired of doing that. So it looks like alignment wise, pretty spot on. Okay, so this side's on now. I'm going to show you the other one we have to change out. Okay, so down here, note again, these are labeled right and left side. So you see that R at the end, that's going to be your right side. And the other one is labeled L, which will be for your left side. So make sure that you use the correct sides. Okay guys, so this is the OEM one. This is the aftermarket one from Hansshow. These are kind of similar, they look like. I mean, they're definitely different, but like same premises. The OEM one has a little post here. I'm assuming that is for alignment purposes. And then the Hansshow one does not. It is just flat on the bottom, whereas the OEM one is not. So I'm going to go ahead and install this one. I'll show you guys what it looks like after. Virtually though, like this one is a little bit heavier than the OEM one by like, I don't know, it's definitely enough to where I can tell, but that shouldn't really make much of a difference. Okay, so I do want to note too, there's a little pop tab right here that you can remove and it makes it easier to access this. So right here you have your aftermarket strut brace, or not strut brace, well I guess it is a strut brace for your frunk, but I have that installed. We are going to put this little pop tab back in now. So it just goes in like so, and good as new. So let's move on to installing that strut. Okay, so here is the aftermarket power strut brace. Now both of these, from what I can tell, they do not matter which side they go on because the wires are the same length, and I cannot find a left or a right, but I am going to verify that before I install these. Okay, so the power struts are in on the one side anyway. So basically you just take the OEM one off, put the brackets on. When you install these, make sure you put the wire towards the downside, not up. And then I have my wire just laying right here for now. So once I get all the control box in and all that fun stuff, then I will get around to wiring it all up and everything. But for now, we just have the wire right here so you can't see it. And then once we have that cover on, it will pretty much cover all that as well. So it'll look really clean. But yeah, so these just pop in. You do not have to press anything. You don't have to pry anything like taking them out. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. I'm not going to record it. It's going to be the same process. You're just going to remove the strut, take the mounting brackets off the top and the bottom, and then put the new one on, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, I'm going to be honest too. You do not have to pry these off like I saw in the other video. If you just come in from this side and you put your hand up here and push that way, it will pop off. Same thing with the bottom. All you have to do is move your hand towards the bottom side, push, and it will pop off. So you do not have to use a screwdriver. I wish I would have known that beforehand, but the instructions show you have to use a screwdriver to pop it off. You can physically just push it with your hand and it will pop it off. So do that, because I did scratch up the OEM strut quite a bit by trying to use a screwdriver to get it off, and it's a lot easier just to pop it off my hand. I literally had it off in 5 seconds, whereas trying to get it off with a screwdriver took me like 40 seconds. So do it by hand, a lot easier. All right, guys, so I got both struts installed along with the wiring. I do need to figure out, I believe this wiring has to go this way across the strut brace, but we will get to that point. And we do have both sides installed. One thing I want to note is when you're installing this, these can be tightened down pretty good, but these bolts down here, they're fairly small and they feel very, very soft. So do not over tighten these, because as I was tightening it, like I didn't strip it or over tighten it, but you can feel like the metal is just very soft. So don't over tighten those. Do not put an impact on those, because if you do, you're gonna strip them out. And those are the OEM bolts. Like those are not the bolts that came with the kit. Like those are OEM Tesla bolts. So just be careful when you're retightening those. But we have both sides done so far. Been fairly easy. My one thing is I want to get, even though you're never gonna see this underneath here, I want to make sure that the wire management looks really good, because this is something I probably will leave on the car. So I just want to note that, but we're gonna have to do the locking mechanism, and all that fun stuff. So we will get to that point, and I'll show you guys what's next. Okay, so the next part is unplugging what they call a lock block signal. Right here, this is going to be pushed in when you come up to it. So it's at the center of the car. This is where the hood latches. This little pin right here is going to pull out, and then this, in theory, should pull. Why are these clips being such a pain in the butt with me right now? But this should pull. There we go. I want to note too, like, it is so hot in my garage right now. And the funny, weird thing is with this car, every time, like, when I unplug that wire, you hear the whole car, like, wake up, although I have it powered off. So, like, these things are always on. There's so much juice in these things. It's actually a little scary because there's so much high voltage in this car. But this is all low voltage stuff, so you're not going to have an issue. But like I said before, just be careful with what you touch and what you're messing with, because a lot of power in these suckers. But I did get this unplugged. It came off very easily. So we're going to move on to the next step. Okay, guys. So the next thing we need to do after we unplug our hood sensor, or our hood latch release sensor, whatever you want to call it, there are two bolts right here that we have to remove. These are 10mm bolts. So we're going to start off by removing this side. Now keep in mind, there is a spring behind here that is under fairly high tension from my understanding. So we just want to make sure that we do not mess that up. And so far we have not dropped any bolts, and we want to keep it that way because dropping something in this bay looks like a nightmare. So there's our spring tension. Okay, so this was the most confusing part. So I'm going to show you guys this here real quick. So this spring, when you take this off, it's going to be like this. They want you to remove this spring. So what you have to do, you take your thumb or whatever, it takes a little bit, and then don't let this go right here. Bring it up, slowly release it. Till about right there. Then you're good. It was a little confusing in the instructions, but this spring, it's going to come off like that, and your spring's off. So you want to set this aside. It's explained kind of in the directions pretty well, but it's not really straightforward. So yeah. So yeah, that's the spring. This spring, like I said, is just kind of set in there. It is a little confusing on how their instructions just is like slowly press the spring, but that's how you remove it. So you just take it out. There's a bunch of grease in here, so your hands are going to get a little greasy, but hey, it is what it is. Okay, guys, so I just got to probably the most confusing part of this, but so you have to take this plate that comes with the motor and all that fun stuff. You have to take this plate. You have to take this spring out, which I showed you. This plate goes back together. There's a little ring that comes with the aftermarket piece that slips over this pin. And what that is, it's like a hood relatch. It's a manual pull. So you want to make sure you put that around. Then you're going to put this spring back over. There's going to be a lot of tension on that. And you're going to put it back in the spot where it was prior. A good way to line this up is I have both plates on here. Your holes should line up on both sides, like so. And then once you have the spring and everything back in, you're then going to bolt it up to the point where you took it off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to show you guys that process and see how that goes. Okay, so let's try this. Let's see how easy this is. So I'm going to take my motor, which is right here, and I'm just going to lay it like so. That way we have both wires in the right spot. We're going to move this guy out of the way. And if everything works as it should, we should be able to bolt this right back up. So you want to make sure you're threading that bolt through both those holes, which we got the one side in. And then we're going to do the other side. Now, the thing I probably should have done, which I forgot, was to make 2 marks on both sides on where the original hood release latch sat. So I'm going to make sure, like I said before, we want to make sure everything aligns properly compared to the OEM one. And this is pretty much how it looked when it was, before I took it off. I just want to make sure that, because these do have a little bit of play in them, I just want to make sure that it lines up correctly to where the OEM one was, because the last thing you want is this to be out of whack. So I'm just going to go with where it's sitting right now, and we might have to play around with it. We might have to adjust some things, but that will at least be where it'll sit for now. So this latch, in theory, should go to here, and then so on and so forth. So we will see how this works. We might have to, if there is any adjustment, it's going to be right here, because this can slide up and down, and this is what's going to control, like when the hood hits that, it's going to open this whatever actuator, and then it's going to suck it in. So we want to make sure that that whole part is aligned, because if it's not, in theory, your hood might not sit completely flush, or it might sit too low and look funky. So if it sits too low, we'd have to bring it up just a little bit, so on and so forth. Or if it sits too high, we might have to bring this bracket down, but we'll figure that out when we get to that point. But at least we have this part done. And next we're going to move on to this guy. Hey guys, now is the time for the wire nest. So we have the latch done, besides if we have to adjust it. And we have the motor that is connected to the latch, plugged in. It is like a brownish, basically a brownish plug. And it has to go down into back there somehow. So I'm going to attempt to install this down there. Okay guys, so they want you to stick a piece of adhesive on the back of this motor and then tuck it down in there, and also zip tie it. So I'm going to do that. The pieces of adhesive that they give you are massive, so I definitely recommend cutting it, because you don't need like that whole piece of adhesive. So I'm going to go ahead and get it down there. It's going to be a tight fit, and then also try and get some zip ties around it, and then hopefully we can kind of start getting all the wiring and all that stuff kind of cleaned up, and then we'll go from there. I'll show you where I put that little motor. It is very tucked away. So if you can see right there, see that little black box back there? Right there. Let me get my phone in a better. Okay, so you see that little black box right there with the 2 zip ties on it? That is the motor that we plugged in, and that also connects to the latch right here. So you want to make sure that you put the adhesive on it in 2 zip ties, and we have it plugged in as well. That wire is running up here somewhere. It's this wire right here. But we're going to get all that wire managed, obviously. But all right, guys, so we got the plugs plugged in here. This is the D7 plug. You're going to take the OEM harness that's in the plastic wire loom, plug it into the harness. Then off of that, you're going to take that other side and plug it into the original OEM side. So it's a little confusing how they have it in the directions, but that is the way you do it. And then down here you have D6. Now D6 is another one that comes off the wiring harness. You're going to plug the side that has the green and the blue wire into the OEM motor that's right here on the front right side. And then you're going to take the OEM wire that again is in the plastic loom and plug that back into the harness. These basically split off. There's two. Very easy once you kind of figure out how they're doing it. It's a little bit of a weird diagram at first, but once you figure it out, it's easy. So next thing we are going to do is take this and ground that right there. So we're going to do that next. Okay, so we have loosened that side. It is a 10 millimeter socket. What we are going to do is just put right behind it, or actually right in front of it. So I'm going to take this and just slip it right on there. And then we're going to tighten this down while holding this. All right, so that is grounded now, which is nice. Now the next thing, we are going to connect the left and the right struts. Now I'm going to figure out how I want to run these wires so they look clean. I'm thinking what I'm going to do, since this is all going to be covered up, I'm just going to run them about right here, and that way we will be pretty clean. Now these are labeled D3 and D4. So from what I can tell, it does not look like D3 and D4 really matter which strut you're going to. So I believe they're both going to be controlled exactly the same. So I'm going to do D3 as the left harness, which is just going to plug in. I don't know if you guys can see this on camera, but it's going to be one connection for the right. And then this is going to be the second connection. I'm sorry, second connection for the left. There we go. Nice tight seal. And then we're going to take D4 and do the exact same thing. So D4. It's going to plug in like so. And the same thing with the other side. So now our struts should be plugged in. We do not have power yet. What I'm going to do before I wire tuck any of this is I am going to, before I plug any of this in, I'm going to make sure that first off the hood, everything functions properly. So now we got a little buzzer, they call it. This is just going to make the sound that we want to hear when we open and close the trunk. I believe it just makes a little beep sound. So it goes into wire D2. Make sure you're plugging it in the right way. Okay, that's in. I am soft mounting all this right now, guys, just so you know. I'm not going crazy. I'm just going to make sure that everything has power first. The next step is going to be connecting power. Okay, guys, so it is working. I just tested it. It opens and closes, and it actually sits 100% perfect. So my next step is going to be installing everything, or I should say wire managing everything, because it's kind of a rat's nest right now. I will say, I'm going to cover this because there are not a lot of other videos on this. Well, I saw videos on like installing it, but they didn't cover this specific aspect. This is a Model 3, not a Model Y. Model Ys have a post where you can connect the negative terminal. These do not. So when you're in here, there is, I'm going to remove this for the sake of the video and hope it doesn't fuck it up, but you can see this is how you connect it apparently. I couldn't get a screw on there. I just bent the terminal and bent it over that post, so it has a solid connection, and it doesn't seem like it's going to go anywhere. Like it is in there and I'm moving this and it still has power to the unit. So apparently that's how you install this. It's very weird. That might be a little janky. I might go back and fix that at one point if it gives me issues, but so far it seems fine. I have power to the box, which looks good to me. I am going to install or finish this pull cable, which needs to go to the front tow hook over here. So we're going to finish doing that, getting everything kind of wire management set up. I am also going to see if I can get rid of this beeper and it still works, because that beeper is like obnoxiously loud. It is like the largest screaming chirp ever. I mean, I guess it's a good thing, so I might leave it there, but it is kind of weird. It's just like obnoxiously loud, especially when the trunk's open. So I'm going to go ahead, get everything wire management, get it all looking nice, and we'll go from there. Hey guys, so I don't know what happened to my audio in this clip. It got really funky, but pretty much I am just showing you what everything looks like. I wire tucked everything, or I should say just zip tied everything together. Got it as clean as I possibly could. I did zip tie a lot of the wiring to the OEM wiring, just so it kind of followed the same route. Got it all in the same way as well. So when I put the covers back on, everything was kind of out of the way, which was the plan. But that's kind of it. I'll let you watch the rest of the clip and go from there. So it's all done. Let me show you how it works. I can't really open it with my phone and record because I'm recording with my iPhone. I do want to say that my car is getting a full detail. It is absolutely disgusting right now because, you know, I just did a 3,000 mile road trip. But look at that. We now have the Power Frunk. It shows it's open. And it closes as well, and it shows that it's latched on here. Let me show you guys how everything looks. It does also operate from the app completely the same way, so you can open and close it. So there it is. You can see that everything tied in perfectly. Looks OEM. Doesn't look like there's any modifications. The only thing you can see that is aftermarket is the struts right here. So very nice. I gotta say, kit was fairly easy to install. I think there are some areas where they could improve the installation directions, just because they're a little hard to follow in some cases. But honestly, I would rate the instructions like a 90% out of 100. I think the area where they're talking about the battery, how you connect the 12 volt to the lithium battery, could be a little bit better, because it just shows in the instructions, it just shows like, hey, you just put it here. And the screws they include, which I believe are for that terminal, don't really work. So I just bent it around that terminal and put the cap over it. I moved it around, didn't seem to come loose. If I do have issues with it, I definitely will correct that down the road. But overall, it came out really nice. Like I said, you got full control in the car. So we'll go back to the car, and this is pretty much where I'll end the video. I know this has been a long install video, but I wanted to give the most in-depth video possible on this. So you do get a confirmation beep with that little buzzer thing, and it latches. Now, I do want to say this. When I put the initial, that latch on, I did have to adjust it a few times just to get the hood to sit flush. It is now flush. Prior to that, when I initially put it in, the hood did sit a little too low because I did adjust it. I put it basically all the way at the bottom. So I did have to adjust that so the hood did sit flush. So now it's flush. You don't have any like weird gaps. I adjusted it about 3 times. First time I adjusted it was too high, so then I could kind of put it in the middle. So I would highly recommend, before you put all the shrouding on, make sure that you check fitment on where it sits, because once you get everything back together, you're really probably not going to want to take everything off again. But I think it came out great. It looks great. Hood gaps are exactly the same. You know, it just kind of, it looks the same. You know, it's stock, but now you have that Power Frunk feature. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, leave it down in the comment box. Thank you so much for watching.